السلام عليكم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله تعالى وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. My dear little children, I welcome you back to our intelligent question series. And today we are going to discuss a very commonly asked question, and this is not just children or youth ask, but many grown-ups even ask. If Allah knows everything, what is the point of working hard for attaining Jannah? Or what is the point of working hard to stay away from disobedience to avoid hellfire, since He already knows everything and He already wrote it down? So this is a question people have in their mind, and based upon that question they think that it is not needed or it is pointless to work if the result is already decided. This is how they think about this topic. Now these type of questions are basically related to a very important topic in Al-Islam and a very basic topic in Al-Islam, which is belief in Al-Qadar, or the belief in the divine decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is one of the greatest pillar of the pillars of faith or pillars of Iman. In fact, this is recorded as the last pillar of faith. And as you know that there are 6 pillars of faith. The first pillar of faith is belief in Allah, then we have belief in angels, then we have belief in the books, belief in the prophets and the messengers, belief in the day of judgment, and belief in Al-Qadar. A lot of children, they say, I can't remember all this sequence. I usually teach them a sentence. Allah sent the angels with the books to the prophets and the messengers to teach us about the day of judgment and Al-Qadar. If you remember this sentence, it will put all of these pillars of faith in order. Allah, this is the first, send the angels, this is the second, with the books is the third pillar of faith, to the prophets and the messengers is the fourth pillar, to teach us about the day of judgment, this is the belief of the day of judgment, and Al-Qadar, which is the divine decree. And the divine decree is actually nothing but part of believing in Allah. It's part of believing in Allah. If somebody doesn't believe in Al-Qadar, he doesn't believe in Allah. This is very clear in the teaching of the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet. So what is belief in Al-Qadar? Belief in the decree or the divine decree, Qadar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now this is a topic that our scholars of Islam, they have written books. And we don't want to make it very difficult for you. So I'm going to summarize things for you because you're just starting to learn, maybe, many of you. So what is the divine decree, belief in the divine decree? These are 4 things if you keep in mind. This will make things easy for us to understand this whole topic. First of all, we have to believe that Allah created everything. He created the good and He created the bad. This is something, there should not be any question or any doubt in our mind. Second, we have to also believe that Allah controls everything. Everything that happens, good or bad, everything is in the control of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing can happen without the power and the control and the agreement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He decides, so things will happen. He doesn't decide, things will not happen. Third, we have to also remember and believe that Allah knows everything. And when we say Allah knows everything, He knows everything in full details. There is nothing that escapes His knowledge. And He decided everything. Why? Because He knows everything. And He wrote down everything. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is something that we have no confusion. We should not have any confusion about this matter. Why? Because Allah is Al-Alim, Al-Allam. He is not only knowledgeable, but He is the knowledgeable, the one who has the knowledge of everything, the past and the present and the future, and the things that didn't happen. If it were to happen, what would be the result? He would know about it. His knowledge has no beginning, His knowledge has no end, and His knowledge is not limited. Why? Because He is not like creation. He is Allah, the Creator. And of course, the last point is all the good and the bad things happen are by the permission and the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when a bad person wants to do bad stuff, or a good person wants to do bad stuff, or a good person wants to do good stuff, or a bad person wants to do bad stuff, doesn't matter. Everything, there has to be the agreement and the permission of Allah. If Allah doesn't agree, if Allah doesn't permit, it will not happen. This is, in short, what is known as the belief in the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We must believe in these 4 points, okay, of Al-Qada and Qadar, so that we do not get misguided. Anybody who has problem with any of these 4 topics will not be guided in the decree, in understanding the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We must also understand that we are prohibited to go into the details with regards to the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it is a matter, as you will understand today, there's a lot of things here that is unknown to us. We can define it. That's why we should not go into details of it. We should keep it very simple. How simple? As the Prophet ﷺ left it for us. Because this is what Allah wants us to keep it as it is. And the one who doesn't decide or agrees with the decree or the decision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will fall into the problem. So do not go into too much details and too much think about it, but keep it very simple. And inshallah we're going to talk about how to keep it simple. Now, although Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything and He decided everything and everything is written down, but there is something He has given us, which is called free will. Although He wrote everything down, but it does not mean that He is forcing us to do things. We should not think like that. So there is nothing called Allah is forcing us to be like this way or that way. Okay? So there is something called free will. This is a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Free will is a creation of Allah. And Allah allows us to use this to choose the good and to stay away from the evil. If we want to be a righteous person, a good person. So we will attain the goodness in this life and the hereafter. But this free will we can only use by the permission of Allah. So when we say free will, it doesn't mean we have full control over it and Allah doesn't. No. Because there are some people who misunderstood this and they say, we use our free will and Allah has no control over it. And when we decide, then Allah knows. That is another wrong understanding. So the free will with which we choose the good, or some people they choose the bad, okay, that is in the full control of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just we have to remember, simple, free will is a creation of Allah. We are creation of Allah. We are using this free will to choose the good, or some people they choose the bad, and so on and so forth. Okay. But now if somebody says, what is this free will? We understand what free will is, but the reality of it is difficult to describe. And we don't have to worry about it. We understand what free will is. For example, I have water here, and I have milk here, and I have honey here, and I have wine here, which is haram. And I know that all these are halal and this is haram. I have the choice. I can choose the wine and enjoy, as some people do, and they do go into astray. And I can choose the other halal things and enjoy, and Allah will be happy with me. So I use the free will and choose. So when somebody is choosing the wine, that happens by the permission of Allah. So when he chose the wine and he became evil, he chose to do the evil. He was not forced to do the evil. He chose to do the evil. And Allah permitted it. But he is going to have to pay for the consequence of choosing the evil. Similarly, a person when he chose to drink the water, he used his free will to do good. Allah, and as long as he does it for the sake of Allah, Allah will reward him. He didn't choose the wine because he knows it is haram. Maybe he wants to drink it, but he says, no, it's haram. I'm not going to drink it because I fear Allah. So he is not forced to do the good. Okay? But all of these good things that he did is by the permission of Allah, in the control of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's how simple it is. Now don't say how it is, well, don't go into details. You understand it, Keep it as simple as that. That's exactly how we are supposed to understand this. Also, another point for you to think about this when we are talking about this question, that if Allah already knows about it, then what's the point? What's the point of doing good or staying away from evil? One of the other things that we have to remember, that Allah created the evil to test us. He created the good, He loves the good. And He created the evil, and He hates the evil. So why did He create the evil? One of the wisdom behind creation of evil is that Allah created the evil is that He wants to test us. And those who will stay away from the evil, they will get Jannah. This is many of the benefits, one of or two of the many of the benefits of Allah's deciding to create the evil. And always remember, all of the decree and the decision of Allah is good. We cannot question them, we cannot judge them, because He's the most wise. He knows everything. He knows what to do when, and what should be created and what should not be created. So we should not question that. We should try to understand the wisdom behind the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the wisdom behind the creation of the evil. Because many people, they say, if Allah didn't create the evil, all these bad things would not happen. True. We know that. And that's why Allah has told us about Jannah. That's why Jannah, there is nothing bad. So Allah can create a world, or this world, Allah can remove all the evil from it. He can, in a second. In the split of a second. But then why He's not doing it? Because this is His decree. Now His decree or the decision, all of it is good. And all of it is perfect. And we submit to it. And we are happy with the decision of Allah that He decided to create this world, and there is some good and there is some bad. All what we are supposed to do is to learn the revelation and to know what is good and what pleases Him, and then what is bad and what displeases Him, and stay away from the evil and do the good. But that has to be done for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we know that when we choose these things, all of this happens by the permission of Allah. If you understand this in a very simple way, you understand what is to believe in the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's one more thing that I want you to think about, which is the concept of time. For us, time, this is how it works. We go through the present. Once we pass the present becomes past. And the future, we cannot peep into it. This is because we are human, we are creation. So once we are in the present, neither can we go back to the past, neither can we peep to the future. Okay? This is how linearly we move. Time is a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we are put in this dimension of time. But for Allah, He is not limited by these things. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. He knows the past, He knows the present, He knows the future. In all full details. And He doesn't learn in time. So things happen, then He figures out what happens. It's not like that with Allah. Allah knows everything all the time. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is something that is beyond our human capacity to really fully fathom the reality of that. So we just keep it very simple. We understand that we are going through the time, and we understand our responsibility, what we are supposed to do, what we are supposed to believe in, and how we are supposed to practice based upon that belief. So inshallah ta'ala, we will not be misguided. Example that I can give you, that Allah knows when it comes to, because most of you are students, so you study to get a good grade, and you don't slack off, because you know that if you do that, you're going to get a bad grade. Now, who created the good grades? Allah. And who created the bad grades? Allah. Does Allah wants us to get bad grades? No. He wants us to, all Muslims, to work hard and to get good grades. Okay. Does Allah know whether we are going to get good or bad grades? Yes, He knows it in full details. Exactly what score, how many mistakes you will have, and how much you will excel in your exams, and for which you will get what or what not. Everything in full details is known to Allah, because He knows everything. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. But does this fact of Allah's knowing the future stops a student, or should stop a student not to study? Just think about it. If you tell a student, study, and he says, Allah already knows whether I'm going to pass or fail, whether I'm going to get A or B or C or D or F. So what's the point of studying? That answer would be so foolish. If you come home and you ask your mother, Mom, I'm hungry, can you please cook me some good food? She says, I know, Allah already knows whether you can eat or not. Allah already knows in full details what you're going to eat. What's the point for me to try? If you ask your Dad, I need something, could you please go and buy it for me? She said, Allah already knows whether you're going to get it or not. So what's the point for me to go and work and earn money and buy for you these things? All of these answers, what would it look like? It would look like so foolish and silly. Why? Because although Allah knows whether we're going to pass or fail or get good grades or bad grades, although Allah already knows what are we going to eat or not eat, Allah already knows what we are going to earn or what we're going to buy or not buy. Allah already knows all of these things. But that fact of Allah's knowledge of the future, He knows everything, should not stop us to work hard in our present time. We should do our best to be good student. We should do our best to be a good mother. We should be our best to be a good father, a good worker, and so on and so forth. So when it comes to the matters of the worldly things, you see, we do everything. We don't sit and say, I'm not going to study because Allah knows everything. I'm not going to work because Allah knows. And if somebody does that, that's going to be really, really foolish. Similarly, when it comes to the hereafter, you keep it simple. Yes, Allah knows whether I'm going to go to paradise or hell. Yes, Allah already decided, like anything else. But that should not stop us to worship Him. That should not stop us to work hard to establish the truth in my life. That should not stop me to learn the religion. Because if I don't learn the religion, I will not know what is halal, what is haram, what is good, what is bad, what is evil, what is goodness. Who are the friends of Allah and who are the friends of shaitan? Who are the prophets and the messengers and who is Iblis and his troop? I will not know. So it will not work. So this is how we understand the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So pretty simple. First of all, you need to know the definition of the decree of Allah, belief in the decree of Allah, of the Qadar of Allah, and we spoke about 4 points. That is, that Allah knows Allah created everything, good and bad. Everything is in full control of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah knows everything and decided everything and wrote down everything. And everything good and bad happens is by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, we have to remember that there are certain things we do not understand the reality of it. For example, we talked about free will. We talked about the concept of time to us. Okay, and all of this, when we put together, how it works. Very simple. I have to do my best to attain the good. And I have to do my best to stay away from the evil. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down revelation through the angels to the prophets and the messengers. We should learn the revelation, the Quran, the meaning of the Quran, and we should learn the sunnah so that we can understand the explanation of the Quran. And that will teach us that these are the things which are good and these are the things which are evil. And then we have to try to do our best to do the good for the sake of Allah. And we have to try to stay away from the evil for the sake of Allah. This is what we are supposed to do. And we know that when we do these things, all of these things happens by the permission of Allah. Nothing of these we can do except by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we should know that we are not forced into doing anything. And neither do we have full control over our free will. So once you have all of these components in your mind, and you again go back and review these points, and you will see the matter is very simple. In fact, everybody believes in Qadar. If you ask a Christian or a Jew or a Hindu or anybody to stop working because God knows everything, they're going to call us stupid, if we can use that word. They will call us you're foolish, because everybody actually works according to the decree of Allah. How a Muslim is supposed to work, they work when it comes to the dunya. The problem is when it comes to hereafter, shaitan puts these thoughts in the mind. Oh, your God knows everything, Allah knows everything. So what's the point of doing good? This is the problem. Because shaitan knows the trick. He will not usually trick us in the matters of the dunya, because he knows that if we work really hard for the dunya, At the end of the day, we get nothing. All these people who work for dunya, 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 huh? At the end of the day, all what they're going to get is little bit of the dunya. And that little bit which they will attain once they die, that will be also gone and will be distributed amongst their friends or whoever. And they will, in the hereafter, they will have nothing. So he knows. So what he's gonna target, Shaitan, Iblis will target the hereafter. They say, you know what? It doesn't make sense. He knows everything. He already knows whether they're going to go to paradise or hell. Why work for it? As you can see, it is a trick of Shaitan. Nothing but a trick of Shaitan. But when you look at your dunya, you see you're doing everything. Okay, so then apply the same thing for the hereafter. Not let Shaitan trick us. These are very intelligent questions, very beautiful questions, but we need to know the answer according to the Book of Allah or the teaching from the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet Sallallaahu alayhi wasallam. I hope this topic is clear, but inshallah we're going to talk about more of this type of questions, more or less inshallah, that connects to the decree, the belief in decree or the Qada and Qadar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik, shadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.